Hello everyone and welcome back. It actually feels so good, maybe slightly surreal to be sitting here talking to you again for actually the first time this year. New year, same me. But new hair, actually, if you're wondering why I look slightly different. I hope you guys all had a great new year and you are feeling slightly more optimistic for 2021. It can't be much worse than the last one, honestly, can it? So I'm keeping my hopes relatively high, but not exceedingly so. I'm looking forward to see what this year has to hold, and I hope you all are too. So where to begin? I know you guys really want vlogs, and I'm more than happy to make vlogs. I just felt like I wanted to sit down and actually just chat face to face with you for this first video. Some of the things I want to talk about, some of the subject matter maybe wouldn't fit quite right if I was discussing it and then just moved on to me, you know, making coffee and going about my day. So we're just going to have a chatty catch up. I'm going to address some of the questions I've had over the last few months, aka where have I been, what happened to vlogmas. And I also wanted to sort of sit down and just chat through some of my goals for the year, some very loose, very easy things that I want to try and commit to the best of my ability. So I think it's going to be a long one. Grab a beverage. If it was my choice, I'd go for something strong. But let's think of this as a little reintroduction to this channel, to the new year, and for anyone that's just joining me for the first time, hello. So, what has been going on in my life? I always find update videos, life updates, to be a little bit self-indulgent sometimes. I'm sitting here literally just talking about myself for 20-30 minutes, and to me that's a lot, but I know there's curiosity and I know there's questions. At the same time, some of the things that I am going through are things that you are all going through. Some of the things that are my day-to-day life now, we all know the gist of it, and I never want to kind of fatigue you guys with those same topics of conversation. I keep this channel kind of quite light-hearted, still realistic and still genuine, but not something that's going to make you feel like, oh god, here we go again, I may as well have just turned the news on. So I'm going to try and be as upbeat as possible, but I will put some little things on the screen if you want to skip ahead, some trigger warnings if you will. So the last time you guys will have seen me is in December, where I was doing kind of a half mini vlogmas. At the beginning of the month I decided not to do it, but I missed it and I wanted to get into it, so I was filming quite regularly and quite often, and you guys I think would have seen a few vlogs and a what I eat in a day video, in which I said at the end, I'll see you on Monday, and I didn't. I think I can kind of put it down to that particular weekend in which everything just fell apart. It was a very difficult weekend for myself, and I think for pretty much most of the nation. This is all such old news to you guys because we've been through it, we've lived through it, we know what happened, it was months ago. But that was the weekend that it got announced that Christmas was basically cancelled. Up until that point, I think it was, I've forgotten nearly now, but it was 5 people or 2 households were allowed to visit each other, which in hindsight was a ridiculous idea, and it should never have been something that we had to cling on to, you know? But that was when it got announced, and really I broke down. I just got incredibly emotional when I heard it over the radio. I remember I was sat in a car outside Starbucks and I just started bawling my eyes out, much to the amusement and distress of passers-by. But it really hit me hard, and I remember picking up my camera on Monday and trying to vlog. I actually have so many clips and so much footage of just me trying to start an intro of a video, and the words wouldn't come out. I didn't know what to say. I didn't have any joy left in my heart. And when you're trying to film yourself, you always have to be a little bit more, you know, energetic, a little bit more positive than your regular everyday self, or you come across completely monotone on camera, and I couldn't do it. I just didn't have it in me, and I know, and I am sure that so many thousands, millions of us felt the same. It felt the same. But for me, I didn't want to continue making content because I couldn't find it in me to do that. So I did explain that a little bit on social media, and I let you guys know that you probably wouldn't be seeing many videos. So, I mean, that was the first kind of blow. I think everybody, I'm sure, felt that kind of heartache of having something like Christmas, which to me and my family personally, and I'm sure to so many of you, is a really special time. My family being a lot smaller now than it was before. I mean, coming together, it's really important to us, as I'm sure you can imagine, and that time of the year especially for us shares and holds a lot of good and happy memories. So getting emotional thinking about Christmas, and it's the middle of March. Christmas 2021, here we come. So after that realization that that wasn't going to happen this year, I was already obviously in a very dark, kind of down place. And 2 days later, I actually tested positive for COVID-19. I'm going to leave timestamps here if you want to skip this entire part, because I do not blame you. We all have absolute fatigue of talking about this subject, and I know it can be really triggering for a lot of you guys. So skip right ahead to the positive part of this video if you don't want to hear about this. To just pop that aside for 1 second, I have been having such an internal struggle as to whether or not I should talk about this. And how to talk about it as well. Because honestly, when I found out the reason we were getting tested, we decided to do a series of tests before leaving for Christmas to go home, back to my family home, just to make sure everything was extra safe. The whole family was doing that. I wouldn't have felt comfortable even stepping foot anywhere if I hadn't had vigorous testing done beforehand. So to us, it was just a very standard procedure we were going through. And I got a text message in the morning, I think it was Wednesday morning, saying you're positive. And I remember sitting there in disbelief, just reading it sorry, what? How is that possible? And my initial reaction was just absolute, aside from fear, kind of guilt and shame and just a huge mix of emotions that I did not think I would feel. It was overwhelming, a lot of disbelief, like I said, a lot of fear about what was happening to me, and what potentially could be happening to others around me. So I've been quite vocal about this, but during the whole of 2020, I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I left this flat other than to go for a walk and to do a food shop. So I kind of felt just so disappointed after we had done pretty much everything right as far as rules can go. We haven't met other people when it's not been allowed. I've not seen any friends. I've seen minimal family during the months of July, August, September. I think it was October, and then November is when lockdown started again, but just during those months. And we've kept distance. We've been in gardens, barely in houses. I haven't stayed over anywhere. So, I felt like, why have I been doing all of this when I've seen multiple people just doing what they want? Seeing people posting on their close friends that they're having parties during the strictest parts of the lockdown. And this is a debate and a conversation that I know has two sides to it. And I know a lot of you guys will feel particularly passionate about it. Some of you will be very riled up about it, like I am. And some of you will understand from a mental health point of view why that may be necessary for some to do. And it's not something that I want to go into, that big debate. But, to me, I just felt like, I can't believe this has happened to me when I have been doing everything I should. When you do test positive, you go through this kind of, I guess it's the track and trace system, where you answer so many questions about where you've been, who you've seen, who you've been in contact with, for me, which was absolutely nobody. And it tries to determine, when you picked up the virus. And to me, it turns out that it was either just at a supermarket doing my weekly shop, or I think I was in the post office on that particular day. It was just the wrong place at the wrong time, or the right place at the wrong time, if you want to look at it like that. And I know that's happened to a lot of people. Unfortunately, it just doesn't really seem fair. But this is really turning into a bit of a story time. I didn't have any symptoms, and then I started to feel a sore throat coming, which to me, I didn't think was related. But really after that first week, it got quite bad. So this was the week of Christmas, probably one of the worst, if not the worst, Christmases of my life. I lost my taste 2 days before. It is the strangest feeling to have no smell and taste. I cannot explain it to you. Normally when you lose your smell, you've got a blocked nose, you've got a cold. I didn't have that. So being able to breathe normally, but not being able to smell anything, myself, food, drink, perfumes, products, literally anything, just smelling nothing. It kind of felt like being in a big white room, a big sterile white room where there was nothing to interact with sensory-wise. It was a really strange and horrible experience. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. It did take it was a long time. It took about a month for my smell and taste to come back fully, although there was one thing in particular. I could not stand the smell of coffee. Coffee just made me feel ill. It smelled like burnt tires and rubber and plastic to me, and it's only up until recently that I've been able to drink it again. So I had a coffee detox inadvertently, but it was horrible. It was a really horrible experience. Now I am, you know, a relatively healthy 28-year-old. I can pretty much manage a 5k if I push it. I spin regularly. I have a Peloton now, so that's something that's a big part of my daily life, and it absolutely wiped me out. I had just nothing. I had no energy. I couldn't stand. I couldn't walk and make myself a cup of tea. I was so fatigued in my body. I'd never experienced anything like it. I felt tired and I felt low energy, and I felt fatigued before, but nothing to this level. I couldn't go for a walk without being out of breath. Luckily, I didn't at any point have to go to hospital. I actually had no problem with breathing just generally, unless I was kind of exerting myself. So I do feel incredibly fortunate for that, because that was the side of things that really scared me. It's actually only just now, again, like with my taste and smell, that I have been able to do things normally again, like go for walks. I really gradually got myself back into it very steadily, probably not until the end of January, February. I actually didn't have the energy to take my Christmas tree down until pretty much late February. My tree has been up since December, and it has pretty much only just come down. I'm looking at it right now because it's sitting in the garden. All these small tasks and small things that seem so easy every day just seemed impossible. It was like going up a hill with lead boots on. It's the only way I can describe it. It just seemed like I couldn't do anything. So all of that happening over Christmas in particular, I experienced probably some of the lowest points I ever have in my life, and I'm not going to dwell on that, but it was horrible. It was really, really hard to get through. When January came, I just didn't know where I stood with YouTube. I didn't know where I kind of belonged in this space. I lost a lot of self-confidence, I think, when I was ill. And at that time, I still was feeling the effects massively. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to share with the world. I felt like I really closed myself off and got very, very private, which is probably why I didn't really post at all on social media, let alone on YouTube. I just didn't know and didn't want to share anything of that time, probably because I felt so down, and just really, you don't want to document when you're in the worst parts of your life. It's not something you want to remember. You'll look at a picture and it'll just instantly bring you back to that time, even if it's not related to it. Okay, let's take a deep breath. So in February, I really started trying to get myself into a routine. And this honestly is what has brought me back to life and sort of saved me. Not every day, I still slip up and have moments where I'm questioning everything. I don't know what it all is. But as a person who since childhood has never had a strict routine, a wake up time, a bedtime, has never had that structure in their life, from school, college to working for myself, I've just never had that stability of a daily routine, and that is something I want to change. So I've been giving myself kind of very strict plans for the day. I've been time blocking, which is the best thing ever. I highly recommend you look into it if you do not feel like you can get organized. It's something I kind of flirted with the last couple of years, but now I do it every single day. I have on my phone a planner where I just block out my time, meal times, exercise times, morning, evening routines stay the same, and I try my best to stick to them. And just having that structure in my life has made such a difference. Actually getting back into exercise as well, particularly running and using the Peloton. I remember the first ride I did actually made me feel so privileged and humbled to have a body that was capable of doing that. And it's something I will never take for granted again. Also had a bit of a new year, new me moment. As you can see, I cut my hair off and dyed it dark. It was a lot darker than this when I first did it. It's kind of like mellowed out a bit. I think I just wanted to say a complete goodbye to the 2020 version of me and start afresh, start a new leaf. I think that's very common for a start of a new year. And to me, I'm taking March as my new year. I'm going to cancel February, I'm going to cancel January, and March is the beginning of the year for me. So that's the story. With that in mind, I really wanted to end this video on a positive note. Like I said, I didn't just want to spout off all of that information and then carry on with the vlog. So I thought I would talk about my goals for the year. Like I said at the beginning, this is very loose. And I honestly think if your goal for 2021 is just surviving, that is more than enough. Just getting through the year, that is the biggest resolution, I think, for all of us right now. So if that is the only thing you have on the agenda, I am very, very proud of you. So for me, the things I want to focus on are myself. I want to be a bit selfish this year. I want to prioritize me. And for me, the whole package is what I want to look at. But the number one in that is my mental health. Now, I've talked about this so many times before. And I feel like I would love to make more videos on mental health. I would love to kind of make it something on this channel that we do discuss. But I've never been in a place where I am stable to the point that I feel like I can discuss with others, that I can give you guys advice, that I can share things that help me. We're never going to be perfect and we're never going to be 100%. That's an important thing to remember. But I'd love it this year if I could really prioritize keeping my mind healthy and in check. So I don't know if I've ever talked about this before, but a few years ago, back when I went through a breakup, when I lost my mum, I went through therapy. I spoke to a therapist a couple of times a week, and it's something that helped me tremendously, so much. I was obviously dealing with just about everything I possibly could have been at that time: grief, loss, fear of being alone, so much anxiety, and, you know, depression as well. And that helped me so much because I felt so in tune with my own mind. And I honestly would prescribe therapy to anybody and everybody in the entire world. If you feel like you are on top of the world, number one, never had any issues or problems when it comes to mental health, talking to someone feels so good. Just to get it out, just to talk, discuss, explain, and maybe be helped along the way into coping with things better, and just understanding yourself. That's what it comes down to. Understanding you, why you do things, why things happen, and what you can do to kind of keep that in check, basically. So I stopped that probably about 2 years ago now when I moved to London, and the mind really is like a muscle. You have to keep exercising it. You have to keep it up. So I really want to get back into therapy this year, talk to someone, and I think that's going to go a really long way at helping me just keep level and keep consistent with myself. There's always going to be ups and downs, but I think having that core understanding and having a safe space to talk in is going to be really great. So if any of you are considering that, if it's something you've never done before, if it's something you've done in the past, I encourage you to just go for it. Just take a session where and when you can, if that's available to you, and just to see how it goes. Also, taking care of myself physically and health-wise is so important to me now. Like I said, I got the shock of my life when I fell ill, and nobody at all is to blame for anything like that happening to them, whether you think it comes down to certain factors about yourself or not. Nothing is your fault. It's not your fault. I wouldn't ever want to put pressure like that on myself, on anyone to think that way. But I really kind of started to realize that I was taking my body for granted. And now I just want to respect it, give it what it needs, feed and nourish it, and just keep it going, you know, keep it going for as long as we can go. Like I said, I went through a bit of a confidence crisis, hence the dyed hair and the big changes, and really I started to look in the mirror and not recognize myself. I think for the year of 2020 I didn't think about my health and my fitness. I was doing what I needed to do to cope emotionally, whether that was sitting on the sofa for an entire week, eating biscuits, ordering delivery when I didn't have the energy to cook, not moving my body whilst doing all of that. And you know what? If those are your coping mechanisms, you carry on doing them. You do what you need to do to get through didn't mean to make that into a rhyme, but it does, and we should remember that. But for me, a coping mechanism transformed into just a habit. And I needed to kind of snap myself out of that and start to really think about things in the long term. I wanted to feel confident when I looked at myself. I wanted to recognize me when I was staring at myself in the mirror. So that for me is something that I really want to work on in 2021. That will come in various forms and various ways, but it's really something I'm keeping at a priority. I also really want to read. I miss reading so much, and I felt like the whole of last year I just couldn't pick up a book and focus on it. I think I talked about this before, and so many of you guys agreed that you couldn't sit and engage with another story, almost like there was just too much going on in the world. For some, I think reading was such an escape and a really welcome one, and I know loads of you got through so many more books than you imagined you could have with the spare time that we all had, and just the want to do that as an escapism. And I didn't read barely at all. I read 10 books in 2020, which it's not good enough. I have so much on my TBR. I have piles of books just sitting around, and I just want to get back into reading this year. I have set myself a goal for 20 books, so to double last year. I think that is very easy, very doable. Hopefully I can smash it towards the end of the year if I get more into it. But I'm already reading now, and it feels so nice. I'm actually reading something quite light at the moment. I'm reading Dolly Alderton's Ghosts. I do want to make sure I'm keeping educating myself via literature as well. Last year I read a few non-fiction books, and that's something that I want to keep going. Just being more informed, more knowledgeable on subjects, topics, and from authors that I don't necessarily relate to personally, but that are talking and speaking on such important topics that we all really should be aware of. So I want to keep a nice balance between lighthearted, fictional, fun reads, things that I can just, get through in a day or two, things that are gonna keep my mind entertained, and then also things that are a bit heavier maybe, but so very important to know. I want to keep myself learning at all times. That's important to me when it comes to reading. Another loose goal I have for this year as well is to just appreciate the world more. Now, obviously this isn't something that's going to be possible for a while in terms of travel and going places, but just to appreciate what I have right in front of me. For starters, the joy of taking my daily walk, despite the fact that the same 3 routes are getting slightly monotonous, but just appreciating my ability to be able to do that, to be able to get outside, to be able to walk, everything around me, to actually take in and observe what's going on in the world, even if I'm just 2 streets over and haven't seen that particular road before, to appreciate that. And the city that is on my doorstep. Now, obviously, I've lived in London now for 2 years, last month. The first year, I definitely did and saw a lot, probably could have done more. But then 2020, of course, came along, and really staying at home so much, it felt like I didn't live in London. I almost forgot that the city was right there. So when it's possible and safe, I really just want to make the most of what I have, because we probably won't live here forever. So I want to make the most of it while I can, because living here is a once in a lifetime experience, and I feel like I'm at just a good place in my life and a good age to appreciate everything that I have right here. So exploring the world, maybe eventually exploring different countries as well, but mostly what I have here in front of me right now. And then as a final goal, and something that I always encourage myself to think about when a new year starts, is to be more consistent with I Covet Thee. I am not a consistent person at all, let alone a consistent YouTuber. And I know it can be frustrating for you all watching, but honestly, it does not frustrate you as much as it frustrates me. I have always wanted to do more and never felt like I can execute all those ideas and visions and things I have. I see people who do so much, and you should never ever compare yourself to anyone. But in this industry, it's very difficult not to do that, and to see others producing such amazing content so consistently every day, every week, and also to see others, and this is something I think about a lot, to see others go through similar circumstances to you, to go through loss, to go through grief, to go through depression, to go through Miss Rona, and just deal with it. like water off a duck's back, literally. And we never know about someone's personal struggles, but I see so many people deal with things so much better than I do, basically, to put it quite bluntly, and to continue on and to have that perseverance to present themselves to the world. Again, tying back in with some of my resolutions, that's something I'd love to be able to achieve myself. And everyone's different, and we should always make space for our own mental health and do what is best for us, not what everybody else is doing. That's something to remember. But I'd like to be able to deal with things better. I'd like to be able to be presented with hurdles and difficulties and challenges and be better at overcoming them without disappearing off into the unknown. The Frozen song nearly came out of my mouth there, but we're not going to go there. I would love you guys to share with me some of your resolutions for this year. I know we're a little bit late now, but maybe that's better. You've forgotten about the first ones you made, like drinking water, exercising every day. It's not going to happen. It doesn't need to happen. And now that we're 3 months into the year, you've really had time to focus on the important ones. And I've missed you all so much. I have missed, more than anything, reading your comments. It's my favorite thing to do. I'm not always able to reply to every single message, to every single comment you leave me, but just know I read them all. And if there's 1 or 2 or 3 on a video, it makes my day. It really, really does. So I'd love to hear from you all. I'd love for you to tell me what you've been up to. What have you been doing over the last 3 months? What resolutions have you made? Have you broken them already? Have you stuck to them? Have you changed your life? If you have, let us know how. Share the knowledge. It means so much to me to have you here. That is what makes this all worthwhile. That is what keeps me coming back after every break, after every absence. Just you guys. And I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be able to do this if you didn't want to know what was going on with me, if you didn't have the questions, if you didn't ask me, when are you coming back to YouTube? I would not be where I am in life right now without all of you. And it's not something that I probably bring up enough. It's not something that I talk about often, but thank you. Thank you so much. So I think we'll end that here. This has been a long one. Let me know how many cups of tea you got through. Apologies if it was something stronger and you're absolutely sourced by now. I'm going to leave you guys here. Thank you all so much for coming back and watching and commenting and being who you are. I love you all.